What if the things you own are owning you? It sounds like a cliche, a line from a self-help blog or a YouTube thumbnail, but sit with it, really sit with it, and it reveals something deeply uncomfortable. In a world that worships more, minimalism dares to ask, what if less is enough? Not as a design trend, not as a productivity hack, but as a philosophy of living. Minimalism isn't about white walls and clean desks. It's not about counting your t-shirts or posting aesthetic photos of empty rooms. It's about something far more radical, deciding consciously what deserves space in your life. And perhaps more importantly, what doesn't. We live in an age of abundance. Information, possessions, opinions, options. On the surface, it seems like progress. But underneath, many of us feel anxious, scattered, exhausted. Why? Because abundance without clarity becomes noise. And minimalism, real minimalism, is the art of turning down the volume. It begins with a question, a deeply personal one. What is essential? Not what looks good, not what impresses others, not what you're supposed to want, but what truly adds value to your life. That question alone is enough to unsettle most of us, because it demands that we interrogate our habits, our closets, our calendar, even our relationships. Minimalism isn't just about less stuff. It's about less distraction, less mental clutter, less default behavior. It invites you to step back and notice how much of your time and attention is being spent, not deliberately, but reactively. And once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Minimalism, at its core, is a rebellion against unconscious consumption. It asks you to live by design, not by default. But this isn't easy, because we're taught from an early age that more equals better. More money, more square footage, more clothes, more apps, more experiences. It's a game with no end, a ladder with no top rung. Minimalism suggests maybe the goal isn't to keep climbing. Maybe the goal is to step off the ladder entirely. That's the provocative part, because it means redefining success, not as accumulation, but as alignment. Alignment between what you own and who you are, between how you spend your days and what you say you value. And that's where the discomfort sets in. Because the moment you start subtracting the non-essential, you're left with the truth of your life. You're left with the question, without all the noise, who am I? That's the intellectual intimacy of minimalism. It's not about answers, but about creating space for the right questions and letting those questions shape your decisions. So what does this actually look like? It could be donating half your wardrobe, not for the sake of minimalism, but because your identity no longer lives in your clothes. It could be leaving a high-paying job, not because you don't need money, but because it was costing you something more valuable: your time, your sanity, your presence. It could be deleting apps, saying no to invitations, carving out stillness in a world that rewards constant motion. Minimalism doesn't have to look extreme. It just has to feel intentional. But here's where it gets nuanced. Minimalism is not about deprivation. It's not about owning nothing, doing nothing, feeling nothing. That's a misunderstanding. Minimalism is about making space for what matters most. It's the difference between a cluttered kitchen and one where every tool has a purpose, between a noisy mind and one that can hold silence without panic. Minimalism isn't cold. It's not sterile. At its best, it's deeply human, because it reconnects us to what we actually need. And so often, what we truly need is far less than we've been led to believe. Connection, purpose, beauty. Enough time to breathe between the moments. In that sense, minimalism becomes an act of remembering what it feels like to wake up without a wall of notifications, to enter a room and feel peace, not pressure, to choose, not out of habit, but out of clarity. Minimalism isn't the destination. It's the clearing, the open field, the quiet room where something deeper can emerge. And maybe that's the real reason it resonates. Not because it promises perfection, but because it offers the rarest luxury of all in the modern world. Enough. Enough time, enough space, enough self, not more. not better, just enough. And in that enoughness, maybe, just maybe, we find a life that finally feels like our own.